In the crucible of the 20th century, America's military strength was not forged solely on the battlefield. It was built, bolt by bolt, rivet by rivet, on factory floors across the nation. From the steel mills of Pittsburgh to the aircraft plants of Southern California, the United States developed an industrial machine unlike anything the world had ever seen. This is the story of how American factories didn't just support wars, they defined them. And in doing so, they reshaped the global balance of power. The phrase arsenal of democracy was coined by President Franklin D. Roosevelt in a 1940 radio address. At the time, Europe was engulfed in war, and the United States stood officially neutral. But Roosevelt understood that America's greatest weapon was not yet on the battlefield. It was in its factories. Detroit, once the capital of automobile innovation, was about to become the epicenter of a new kind of production: tanks, jeeps, and bombers. The Ford Motor Company's Willow Run plant, for example, would soon produce a B-24 Liberator bomber every 63 minutes. This transformation was unprecedented. Civilian industries retooled almost overnight. Typewriter factories began making machine guns. Refrigerator companies built airplane parts. It was not just a shift in production, it was a shift in national identity. By 1944, American factories were producing more war material than Germany, Japan, and Italy combined. The scale was staggering: over 300,000 aircraft, 88,000 tanks, and more than 2 million trucks. But this wasn't just about quantity. It was about logistics, standardization, and innovation, areas where American industry excelled. One of the least glamorous yet most powerful tools in America's industrial arsenal was standardization. While Axis powers often relied on handcrafted or limited-run equipment, the United States embraced mass production and interchangeable parts. Take the M4 Sherman tank. It wasn't the most heavily armored or most powerful tank of the war, but it could be produced quickly, repaired easily, and shipped in vast numbers. Over 49,000 were built during the war, many of them by companies that had never built a tank before. This philosophy extended to aircraft as well. The P-51 Mustang, one of the most effective fighters of the war, was designed and mass-produced with remarkable speed. Its parts were standardized across factories, allowing for rapid assembly and maintenance. In contrast, German aircraft, like the Messerschmitt Bf-109, were often built in smaller batches, with variations that complicated repairs and logistics. In war, reliability and availability often outweigh elegance. America's factories understood this and delivered.
Behind every machine was a workforce, and during World War II, that workforce changed dramatically. With millions of men deployed overseas, American factories turned to women and minorities to fill the gap. Over 6 million women entered the workforce during the war, many in industrial roles for the first time. The image of Rosie the Riveter became iconic, but it represented a broader truth. America's industrial power was now fueled by a more diverse labor force than ever before. African Americans, too, found new opportunities in defense industries, though often under difficult and unequal conditions. The Double V campaign, Victory Abroad and Victory at Home, reflected the dual struggle for freedom and equality. This mobilization of human capital wasn't just a social shift, it was a strategic advantage. The ability to scale up production with a flexible, motivated workforce gave the United States a level of resilience that few nations could match. The end of World War II did not end America's industrial military complex, it transformed it. As the Cold War began, the focus shifted from tanks and rifles to missiles, satellites, and nuclear submarines.
Factories that once built bombers now produced intercontinental ballistic missiles. Shipyards that had launched Liberty ships now turned out nuclear-powered carriers. The Cold War also gave rise to a new kind of factory, one that dealt not in steel, but in silicon. In California's Santa Clara Valley, defense contracts helped birth the semiconductor industry. Companies like Fairchild and later Intel began by building components for military systems. These innovations would eventually power the digital revolution. In this way, America's military-industrial base didn't just win wars, it laid the foundation for the technological dominance of the late 20th century.
Many nations have had strong militaries. Some have had powerful industries, but few have achieved the seamless integration of both as the United States did. Germany, for example, produced advanced weapons during World War II, rockets, jet aircraft, and heavy tanks, but its industrial base was fragmented, often bombed, and lacked the logistical depth of the American system. The Soviet Union, while vast and capable, often emphasized quantity over quality, and its centralized planning led to inefficiencies. In contrast, the American model combined private enterprise with government coordination. Companies competed for contracts but followed centralized production goals. Innovation was encouraged, but within a framework of standardization and scale. This hybrid model, part capitalist, part coordinated, proved remarkably effective. Today, the nature of warfare is changing. Drones, cyber warfare, and artificial intelligence dominate headlines. But the lessons of America's industrial past remain relevant. The ability to scale production, to mobilize a workforce, to adapt civilian industries for military needs, these are still the foundations of strategic power. In recent years, the Pentagon has revisited these lessons. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed vulnerabilities in global supply chains. Renewed tensions with peer competitors have sparked discussions about industrial readiness. Because in the end, wars are not won by weapons alone. They are won by the ability to build, to sustain, and to adapt. From the roaring furnaces of the 1940s to the clean rooms of today's chip fabs, American factories have done more than build machines. They've built security, they've built resilience, and they've built a legacy. A legacy forged not just in steel and aluminum, but in the quiet determination of millions of workers who, without ever firing a shot, helped shape the course of history. In the factories of America, the engines of freedom still hum.